What went wrong for Manchester United in the Europa League final? A tactical analysis. For cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to www.jerseyfifa.com, a link will be left in the description, and use code atlantisfootball for 5% off. Now, before I get into the analysis, let me tell you about my favourite football app, the OneFootball app, because this is where I go to keep up to date with the latest circulating transfer rumours, and I find the match section on the app incredibly useful as well for looking at matches, clubs and players that I'm not able to watch on a regular basis. If you like this channel, you'll definitely love this app, so when you go to subscribe to the channel, if you enjoy the content, which would be very much appreciated, make sure you click the link in the description to also get the OneFootball app. So going into the game, Emery lined up his side in a 4-4-2 system with Rulli in goal, Torres and Albiol the centre-back pairing with Juan Foyth and Alfonso either side at full-back. Parejo and Capoue played as a midfield double pivot in central midfield, with Yeremy Pino starting on the right side of midfield, Trigueros on the left, and Gerard Moreno and Carlos Bacca playing as the front two. Solskjaer used his usual 4-2-3-1 system, with De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw the fullbacks, either side of Bailly and Lindelof the centre-back pairing, with McTominay and Pogba playing as a midfield double pivot, Fernandes starting in front of them, Rashford starting from the left side, and Cavani playing as a centre forward. So from the start of the game, the pattern of the game was clear. Villarreal were content to sit off in a compact 4-4-2 shape and allow United to have the ball in their defensive third. With Bacca and Moreno, instead of pressurising the centre-backs, they would instead sit off and instead cut the passing lanes into Pogba and McTominay, which would halt United's progression of the ball into the middle third. United would use a familiar 2-4-3-1 possession shape in the possession phase, with the aim of having Rashford and Greenwood move in field into the half space, creating a narrow front three in behind Cavani. The fullbacks would be left open, with Villarreal closing off the passing lanes in field. When the pass would go out to United's fullbacks, you would see Pino and Trigueros push up to apply instant pressure. This may not seem like a massively important feature, but had the two Villarreal wide players maintained their deeper positions when United's fullbacks had the ball, then the fullbacks would have been able to drive forward with the ball and push United's attack into the middle third quicker. However, Villarreal's defensive shape was excellent throughout the game, being very well organised in terms of their starting position in their narrow 4-4-2, but also having very good coordination with each player, knowing when to apply pressure and when to push up tight to a United attacker, and then when to shuffle across to keep the horizontal compactness. This could be seen as the Villarreal fullbacks knew exactly when to push up the pitch to stop a simple pass down the line when Trigueros or Pino applied pressure to Shaw or Wan-Bissaka. Albiol was also very assertive when pushing out of the back line onto Bruno Fernandes and Rashford on that left side. This stopped United's attackers being able to float into space and receive the ball between the lines in front of the back line, and United's ball progression was not as vertically direct as it usually is. United had to rely on Pogba and McTominay's quick switches of play via their long passes from congested central areas out to the flanks to provide most of their ball progression from their own half. Out of possession, United pressed in their usual 4-2-3-1 shape, very aggressively high up the pitch, with the front three behind Cavani incredibly narrow, and with McTominay and Wan-Bissaka on that right side, being very aggressive with pushing up to close down Alfonso the left back, and Bailly behind them being prepared to follow Carlos Bacca deep when he dropped off from the forward line to create an outlet for a direct pass from the back line. Ultimately, in the first half, this was very successful from United, as even though Villarreal did attempt to play out of the defensive third, United's press closed off all options in terms of passing lanes, with Fernandes pushing up onto Parejo and McTominay and Pogba moving tight to whichever Villarreal player was positioned in their zone at the time of the press. When Villarreal were able to move the ball into the middle third, which was fairly infrequent, United would then drop back into a 4-4-2 shape, which was their standard defensive shape and has been through this phase of play throughout the whole season. However, the fact that United's press was very effective is no surprise, as this season that's been a constant throughout their play. When we look at their expected goals against in the Premier League this season, they have a rate of just 41.92, the fourth least in the whole league, which is fairly decent, and in particular their press is what is very impressive, and this is why in big games this season, while Solskjaer's side have struggled to beat these big sides, they rarely lose or concede. They kept 2 clean sheets against Manchester City this season in a 0-0 draw and a 2-0 victory, whilst also having 2 0-0 draws versus Chelsea in the league and a 0-0 earlier on in the season versus Liverpool, showcasing that when United need to be, they can be very good defensively. The pattern of the game was that United were controlling possession, with Villarreal sitting in that deep, compact 4-4-2 shape as Parejo and Capoue sat deep, compressing the space between themselves and the centre-backs, meaning that Bruno Fernandes, Greenwood and Rashford had almost no space between the lines, and this forced United to continuously shift the ball from side to side, pushing Villarreal back into their defensive defensive third but without much penetration into the box. Unai Emery's side took the lead against a run of play and it came from a set piece. Parejo takes a free kick from quite a deep position, and the only real mistake comes from Lindelof, who isn't tight on Gerard Moreno and allows him to run beyond him, being caught flat-footed. The free kick is fantastic from Danny Parejo, and once Gerard Moreno gets a touch on it, it's past De Gea, and all in all it's a cheap goal for United to concede, especially considering how dominant they were in the game up until this point. Lindelof's aerial weakness from crosses like these is certainly a concern, as we have seen it become a theme throughout the season, with the game against West Bromwich and Bailly Dean towered above Lindelof and opened up the scoring for Allardyce's side in that game, being a clear example of this. This is something I've spoke about in my Manchester United transfer series, in my video on the centre-back I would target for United this season, or this summer rather, and you can find that video, which will be linked in the description below and in the eye above. So going in at half time a goal down was certainly a disappointment for United, but given the pattern of the game, it was more than feasible for United to turn the game around, and when Cavani equalised it seemed like the game was in United's hands. Whilst the personnel changed throughout the second half, the tactical setup of each side didn't really. Villarreal did begin to press a lot more assertively around the 70th minute mark in a 4-1-3-2 shape, with Parejo pushing up onto McTominay as Capoue sat deeper in midfield, and this likely stemmed from Emery being concerned that by continually defending in that deep 4-4-2 shape in their own defensive third, it was inviting United to pen them in and would only be a matter of time before they created another big chance, which looking back on it was quite a shrewd move from the former Arsenal manager. However, Solskjaer definitely needs to adapt his possession system in games like these. United seem to use a 2-4-3-1 in the middle third, which becomes a 2-2-5-1 in the attacking third at all times. Against a deep 4-4-2 like Villarreal's, United should have been looking to push the wide midfielders further back, as it seemed that both Trigueros and Pinho had been instructed to follow Wan-Bissaka and Shaw diligently, and therefore if Shaw and Wan-Bissaka had pushed higher up the pitch sooner in United's attacking move, this would have pushed Villarreal back into a back six, creating a kind of 6-2-2 shape, and therefore even though Parejo and Capoue were doing a good job of closing off the space between the lines, United would have had a lot more space wide of them in these areas, and which would have aided their progression into the final third and then the box. From about 70 minutes onwards and then throughout the 30 minutes of extra time, it seemed like Solskjaer was relying on individual brilliance from his offensive system. He has been criticised a lot for his late substitutions, but the options that United have on the bench in terms of Daniel James and Juan Mata in those attacking positions means it's no wonder why Solskjaer is reluctant to make substitutions, and this is an area I will address in the remaining episodes of my Manchester United transfer series, which will be coming up in the next week or so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications by clicking the bell so you don't miss out on any of those episodes. While Solskjaer's lack of tactical versatility in the attack is the obvious reason why United struggle to break down Villarreal, and why we have seen this frequently against sides who are very organised and compact, as Emery's side was, we have to give credit to Villarreal, as it's no wonder why Albiol and Pau Torres are rarely ever exposed in vulnerable one-on-one situations, as with Capoue and Parejo sitting deep in front of them, the wide midfielders being very well disciplined, and the fullbacks sitting very narrow, the centre-backs are hardly ever exposed, and Emery's defensive shape is very 2014 Simeone Atletico Madrid-esque in terms of the setup. United lost the game when it went to penalties, as from then on it's out of the manager's hands, all on the individuals, and basically a lottery. Overall, you can't say that Villarreal outplayed United or really deserved the victory, but you can't say the same about United either, and if anything it was United's game to win, certainly after Cavani's equaliser, but the failure to open up a deep compact defensive unit is a familiar one for United under Solskjaer. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, remember to subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to my new channel that I've just created, where I will be uploading non-football videos, so give me some ideas for videos that I should upload. Also follow me on Instagram and Twitter for more content. Give the video a like and check out some of my other videos, which will be linked in the description below.